What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? In today's video, I'm going to be walking you through the exact KPIs you should be looking out for with your meta ads in 2026. All of the exact numbers, cost per lead, ad spend, all of it, so that you can be successful in scaling your own Wrap shop. I'm Jeremiah with Groundbreak Marketing. We run ads and handle the entire front end sales process for Wrap and PPF shops. That way, all our shops have to do is just show up the day of the actual appointment and close in person. Today, I'm going to open up the exact Google Sheet that we use to know before we ever spend a single dollar on ads, whether a campaign is going to be profitable or not. Every number that actually matters, top to bottom. That way, by the end of this, you'll have a solid idea and a solid set of KPIs to aim for your shop specifically. But before we do any of that, if you can just do me a huge favor, as this is a brand new channel, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment down below. This channel is meant to be raw numbers and value as I walk through the entire back end, the operations, and the actual sales and marketing systems of all of our successful shops. So again, just do me a huge favor and subscribe so that you don't miss any of this moving forward. But now let's get into these KPIs. You need to stop treating your marketing like a slot machine. Running paid ads for a wrap shop is not a gamble. It's just a math equation. And here's what I mean. Most shops run ads the exact same way somebody plays a slot machine. They'll put money in, watch a 4-year-old YouTube tutorial on how to set up a campaign with no actual expectations or KPIs on what to aim for. And then when nothing comes out, they decide ads don't work for my shop and they quit. So if your ads feel like you're throwing money into a fire, it's not because ads don't work. It's because you don't know your KPIs. You had nothing to aim for, so the results felt random. And I'm telling you right now, it's not random. So I want to run you through the exact metrics that we look for when we're launching a campaign and build this entire sheet out together. And it starts with the 2 numbers you control before a single ad ever runs. And these are the 2 numbers your shop needs to have dialed before you even think about running ads. Your app's ticket price and your monthly ad spend budget. And if you get these 2 numbers wrong, the rest of the funnel will lose you money. Now, for this video, we're going to put a standard vehicle wrap at $4,000. Again, this can be plus or minus a couple $100, kind of depending on your exact pricing. But I really don't like going any lower than this, especially if you're going to be running some kind of offer on this ad that you're going to have to fulfill on. And if your wraps are significantly less than this, you need to seriously bump up prices before running ads. And here's why. A lot of shops price low, $2,000, $1,800, thinking that a cheaper wrap means way more people saying yes. But here's what actually happens once you start paying for customers. Your customer acquisition costs won't drop down proportionally with your prices. The CPM price Meta will charge you to run the ads on their platform will be the same. The amount of no-shows will also be the same, if not worse, because you're dealing with cheaper prospects. And your close rate once they're in person will also be about the same. So when you cut your price in half for a special offer that you're running, or you don't have your shop's financials totally figured out, you don't make the funnel cheaper to run. In order to scale a wrap shop, you're going to need a higher ticket price, because it's what lets the marketing math survive in the real world. And here's the part that nobody tells you when you step into paid advertising. Every appointment that walks through your door is now going to cost you real money. By the time you account for the ad spend it costs to generate a lead, then the amount of leads needed to actually get one on the phone, then the amount of phone calls it actually takes to book a real appointment, you're looking at $200, $300, maybe $400 an appointment. And that's before you or your salespeople even try to close. Now, again, I'm not saying this to scare you off because we're absolutely ripping this process all over North America, but I'm just trying to shoot you straight on the financials needed to scale. Again, this isn't a ripoff. That's just what it costs to manufacture demand on demand instead of waiting for it. But it changes your shop's pricing math completely. Again, I'm not here to sugarcoat this. This isn't Facebook Marketplace anymore, where the lead costs you essentially nothing to get and everything after the material cost is profit. When a customer now costs a couple $100s to get into a building, a $2,000 wrap just doesn't cover material, labor, salespeople, customer acquisition, rent, insurance, and any of it. There's just nothing left by the end. But at $4,000, that same couple $100 acquisition cost now becomes sort of a rounding error. Your pricing has to be built for the channel that you're buying from, and paid traffic demands a ticket that can both absorb the cost of getting a customer and also fuel the business to continue to increase ad spend profitably. That's why when we partner with a shop, we dial in not just their pricing, but also their sales in order to be able to actually sell at the new higher price. Because sure, anybody can hop on camera and say, oh, just increase your price. But if you don't know how to actually book appointments for a high ticket wrap, you still won't close. So again, for now, we're going to anchor this at $4,000. Now, the marketing budget. And honestly, I really don't like using the word budget because if your ads are actually working, you should be doing everything in your power to spend as much as possible on them. But for this video, just to start, we'll put your monthly ad spend at around $1,500. And notice I didn't say $10,000. You don't need a huge budget just to prove this out. You need just enough to get consistent data. And from what I've seen time and time again, kind of different markets all across North America, $1,500 a month really does that well. This is just a realistic starting number for a shop that wants to test out the machine without betting the house. But again, also notice I didn't say $500 a month. And I want to spend an actual second here because this is one of the biggest complaints I always get more than anything else. So I kind of want to explain why we can't just start off with $500 and scale up once it works. And sure, I sort of get why that kind of feels safe, but here's the thing that you actually need to understand about how paid ads really work. Every dollar you spend isn't just buying leads, it's buying data. Think of your ad spend as data tokens. Meta's algorithm learns who to put your ad in front of by watching who clicks, who fills out the form, who converts. And the more of those signals you feed it, the faster it dials in on the exact people in your city who want a wrap. If you cap it or starve it by only spending $500 a month, it's just never going to learn. And here's the math problem with $500 a month, $800 a month in ad spend, or just really any super low budget. With where Meta's pricing is sitting right now, $500 a month barely buys you enough impressions just to get out of the learning phase. You're just not generating enough data, much less leads in 30 days to tell you anything. You might get 10 leads, 15 leads, and now what? Is that good or bad? You genuinely can't know. The sample size at this budget range is just too small, and you'd be making decisions just off of random noise. Now, could you technically make $500 a month work? I mean, sure, in super duper theory land, yes. The math doesn't necessarily break, it just stretches really far out. So instead of getting your answer in a month on, what ads are working and what's not, you're collecting those same, data tokens over 3, 4, 5 months before you actually have enough signal to know what's working. And here's what actually happens in that scenario because I've watched it play out time and time again. The shop owner will spend $500, sees nothing, in a month because the expectations weren't set straight and decides ads don't work and just shuts them off. But at that budget, you didn't just run a smaller test. You paid for a third of a test and you quit before the results came in. That $500 didn't save them money because they cut it off early on something that wasn't working. It just got completely wasted because you collected a ton of inconclusive scrambled data. So $1,500 a month isn't me trying to give Meta more money just for the hell of it. It's realistically kind of the minimum of where you need to actually spend in order to get real answers inside of a couple weeks instead of just dragging it out maybe across the whole quarter. But all right, sure, let's say, the monthly ad spend budget is now $1,500, the money's in the machine. Now, the $1,500 gets to work, and the first thing it'll produce is leads, which then brings us into one of the most misunderstood numbers on this entire sheet, even by marketers. Cost per lead is the most misunderstood number in wrap shop marketing. It is a total vanity metric that means nothing once you're actually trying to scale a shop. So let me explain. Again, something that is just extremely misunderstood, even by most marketers, is cost per lead. For example, I'll use a super common CPL that we're able to get from most of our shops, but regardless, the number on its own still just doesn't mean anything. In this example, again, kind of using our average between all of our shops, we're going to say that your cost per lead is sitting at around $10, meaning that $1,500 a month in ad spend, by the end of the month, will generate exactly 150 leads. But here's the thing, $10 leads that never turn into wraps are still worth exactly $0. And I've seen shops brag about cheap leads from an ad that attracted a bunch of tire kickers who wanted a $500 hood wrap. Meanwhile, we have shops in our bigger markets running a $30 to $40 CPL because your cost per lead is going to vary wildly between different markets, different offers, different services, whether it's vinyl, PPF, full body, partial, and the amount of friction in your funnel. But even with our wraps running a $40 cost per lead, they're still shitting money because depending on their offer and their sales process, those $40 leads are super financially qualified. And it doesn't take as many of them to get an actual close. Again, the number that truly decides whether the machine as a whole is profitable isn't what a lead costs, it's what a closed customer costs. Your CAC, your customer acquisition cost, is the only number that really matters. We'll get to that number by the end of the sheet. But then okay, why does CPL get its own row? Because unfortunately for the case of this video, it's just still a decent broad directional check on the marketing itself. If you're running a $10 CPL when you initially launch the ads and suddenly a month later it doubles from what's normal to your market, something changed at the top. Maybe the creative burned out or the targeting drifted. In general, it could tell you where to look, but I want to super hammer this into your head. It doesn't tell you whether or not you're making money. You need the context of the full funnel to see that. But look, rant aside, regardless, we normally see a $10 CPL. Again, that may potentially be lower than what you're running, but we also aren't putting a huge amount of friction when we initially launch these ads for our shops. But it will vary, again, plus or minus a few bucks, maybe up to $20, kind of depending on the amount of qualification that we're doing on the front end. But great, let's say you're running $1,500 a month in ad spend, you're getting a $10 CPL. So now you've got 150 leads sitting in the sheet. But again, leads aren't revenue. What happens in the next few minutes after each one comes in is the single biggest lever on this entire page. 150 leads means nothing if you're not calling them on time. Speed to lead is the single biggest lever on this entire sheet, and almost every shop is asleep on it. Now, if you have a dialed sales process, and by dialed, I mean you're calling within 5 minutes, you have a proper CRM to actually funnel all these leads, Maybe you're running some sort of power dialer so that leads aren't slipping through the cracks. Your lead to booking percentage should easily sit around 10%, meaning at the end of the month, out of those 150 leads, you've booked in 15 appointments. And I want to be clear, 10% is roughly conservative. Realistically, because we have our system pretty dialed, we like to shoot for around 15 to 20-ish% kind of on the high side, because again, our process is fucking dialed. But the reason why most shops book around 3% or 4%, or if they even book one off a meta lead at all, instead of that 10% that we like to aim as, roughly conservative, isn't because of their offer, it's because of their speed. For most shops running ads, a lead will fill out a form and won't hear back from them until next morning. And of course, by then, half of those leads filled out 3 other forms and the other half just didn't even remember that they filled out the form to begin with. The difference between calling in 5 minutes and calling in 5 hours is the difference between a booked appointment and a dead lead. Again, same lead, same ad, same money spent. The only variable is how fast you actually got to the phone. And that's why we never text these leads. We never just fire off a booking link. We call them, and we call fast. So great, let's say you have a full-time appointment setter working for you at your shop. Maybe they're working the front desk, handling the phone. They're getting to all the leads immediately, and now you've scheduled 15 appointments in your calendar. Feels great, right? Well, don't celebrate yet, because the next row is the reality check. And again, here's a number that nobody wants to look at or nobody wants to put in the sheet, and it's just the reality of sales and business as a whole. Because we live in the real world, people are unfortunately going to flake, cancel, no-show, their car's gonna take a shit, break down, life just happens. And again, for this example, a common percentage that I have seen time and time again, granted, your setters know how to get a card on file, and they know how to objection handle when prospects say no to the card on file, and they're following up and double confirming before the appointment, your cancellation rate should sit at around 20%. Granted, you're doing everything right. Meaning on 15 booked appointments, 3 unfortunately will more than likely just fall off, which drops your actual in-person shows to 12. Now, most shop owners see a cancellation come through and they just start to panic. They think the campaign is falling apart, and it's just not. Unfortunately, this is just baked into the business model from the start. But again, here's what actually moves this number: the way you confirm the appointment. When we book someone, we take a card on file. And I want to be really clear on this because a lot of shops mess this up. The card is not a deposit. We are not charging cold traffic off of an ad that they had just filled out. However, we do push for the card on file because it's a commitment. Someone who gives you a card to hold will show up at a completely different rate than someone you went ahead and scheduled without the card and just said, yeah, sounds good on the phone. And again, same thing with confirmation before the appointment. Every time we schedule an appointment, we manually call them again multiple times before the appointment to confirm that they're still going to show up. Again, you ideally want to keep this cancellation rate as low as possible, but this is me shooting straight. You are going to need to set up an actual backend from stopping it from creeping up to, 60% cancellation rates. But 20% is what it should look like once you have an actual process that is 100% dialed. So look, out of the 150 names and numbers, 12 people are actually walking through your door. Now, everything on this sheet so far has been on the marketing side. The next number is the one thing that is on you and your team. This is where the rubber meets the road. And here's the good news. You don't have to be some elite closer for this to still print for you. You just have to be average. You've got 12 shows coming into the shop. Again, if you are just completely average at sales and your close rate is only, let's say 30%, meaning you close 3 out of 10 people that confirm the appointment, put their card down, drive to your shop and actually show up, then out of the 12 people that actually walked in, you've sold 4 wraps. 12 times 30% is 3.6. Some months this will land at 3, some months at 4. In this case, we'll just call it 4, just like the sheet shows. But actually sit with that for a second. A 30% close rate is by no means amazing. That is maybe just below average for someone selling in person, and it still works. That's the part that people don't believe until they see it on the sheet. You don't need to be some crazy sales wizard. You don't need to have some insane hard close sales tactics and like a crazy slick pitch. You just need the appointments to actually show up, and you need to not fumble 1 out of 3. Now, again, if your close rate is just genuinely tanking, let's say you're sitting at 10%, that's the one spot on the sheet that's just the most fixable. But again, even a semi-broken, just 30% still prints money. Now, again, from the $1,500 initial dollars, 4 wraps at $4,000 a pop. So let's just walk this entire sheet one more time left to right. A $4,000 ticket and $1,500 in ad spend. That gave you 150 leads at a $10 CPL. From those 150 leads, you booked in 10% of them because of your speed to lead. Now you had 15 booked appointments. The real world no-shows knocked it down to 12 in-shop actual appointments. Again, an average, honestly kind of below average, 30% close rate turned those 12 appointments into 4 wraps, which is $16,000. Again, you put $1,500 into a machine and you pulled $16,000 out. That is more than a 10x return. And here's your real number, the one I told you earlier, your CAC, $1,500 spent, 4 customers. That's $375 to acquire a customer worth $4,000. That's the actual number that tells you if the machine works, not the $10 cost per lead. Now, remember what I told you at the top about the appointments costing, $100, $200 for them to actually show up. There it is on the sheet, but the $4,000 ticket swallows it without even blinking. All of this with a below average close rate, real no-shows baked in, and just a conservative 10% booking rate, sort of bringing the entire math of this down. Or again, even at that conservative 4 reps, let's say you close 3 reps. A $500 cost to acquire a customer for a $4,000 service will scale the shit out of any business, not just reps. Again, this is why having actual hard KPIs before you launch an ad is important. If the money isn't coming out, it shouldn't be some marketing mystery. It's one specific step or one specific number that's off. If you've been running ads for 2 months and at month 3 it doubles, you need to fix the ad. If you have a low booking percentage, you need to fix your speed to lead and your follow-up. If you have high cancellations, you need to fix your appointment confirmation and your card collection process. If you have a low close rate, you need to fix your in-person sales. None of this should be guesswork. Now, before we wrap this up, remember earlier I said we literally have wrap shops running a $30, $40 cost per lead and they're still printing. So let me actually prove that to you on this sheet, because this is the part that's going to rewire on how you look at your ad account and how you look at cost per lead. Now, I'm going to shoot you just entirely straight right now because I speak to so many shops, so many marketers, and they all tell me about how great their cost per lead is. And honestly, this is the exact reason why I just don't give a shit about your cost per lead, because this math still works out for a $40 cost per lead and literally 4x what we just ran, as long as the leads that are coming in are actually booking. So just watch. We are going to run the exact same ticket price and the exact same monthly ad spend, but we are literally going to nuke our CPL by bumping it up to $40. Say you're running an ad with a ton of qualifying questions on them, and your shop just has absolutely no tolerance for brokies, for tire kickers, or any of that. And because of that, your CPL comes out to $40, like a literal nuke to your CPL. Now, most marketers or most, shop owners, their gut is going to tell them that this campaign is just totally fucked. But because these $40 cost per leads now answered a shit ton of questions about their car, their budget, colors, they know your shop's pricing range, they know what they want, whatever you decide to ask them on this form, they are going to be way more invested as an actual customer. So of course, naturally, they're going to be a lot more responsive to your phone calls once you actually call them, because they went through hell and back just to submit their information. So now they're going to be actually picking up at a way higher rate. Put the booking percentage at 40. So now watch the row. $1,500 now gets you only 37 leads. We're still going to say that you booked the exact same amount of them, so 15. And we'll say that you still had the exact same no-show rate, which was 20%, and the exact same close rate at 30%. Now, guess what? You still collected $16,000, the exact same amount, with 4 times the lead cost and identical cash at the end of the month, because both funnels produce the same 15 booked appointments. But honestly, I would prefer this one 10 times out of 10, because this one had way less phone calls, way less tire kickers, and just way less work. And again, we'll make this even uglier. We'll keep the $40 cost per lead, and we'll just say again that your in-person actual booking rate is the same 10. So the 37 leads turn into, in this case, we'll just round this up and say 4 booked actual appointments. Now let's say the person that was calling the appointments absolutely made sure that they showed up 100. Now let's say your sales guy, the person closing in person, was an absolute killer, again, assisted by the fact that you have so many questions on the front end. So these are as qualified as the lead can get. And let's just say he sold all 4 of them. Then you are still absolutely killing it. I'll now even toss in a different variation. And this is the one that half of you are living right now. We'll go back down to these beautiful $10 cost per leads. Again, the same dollar cost per leads I see everyone bragging about in Facebook groups, but we'll put your lead to booking percentage at really the industry standard, what I've seen to be around 3. Then your booked appointments is at 4%. And because you weren't properly collecting card on file and you weren't properly confirming the day of the actual appointment, you had nearly almost all of them canceled. But thankfully you're able to sell one. That in this case, out of the 1,500 leads you got, you only closed 1 client. So then in that case, technically the best cost per lead out of all of these made the least amount of money. This is why I couldn't give an F about your CPL. The only thing that matters is how much cash you're collecting at the end of the month. Every number on the sheet only exists to serve that last sell. And if you're just judging your marketing by what a lead costs, you're reading the wrong column. So look, that's the entire equation. Ticket price, ad spend, cost per lead, booking percentage, cancellations, close rate. And at the bottom, your cost to actually acquire a customer. Every profitable wrap campaign is just these numbers stacked next to each other. So stop panicking when a lead cancels or when someone ghosts you. Just expect the drop off, track the numbers, and work the funnel. It's just math. Now look, if you run a wrap or a PPS shop and you just don't want to babysit these numbers by yourself, that's exactly what we do here at Groundbreak Marketing. We run the ads, we track every one of these KPIs, and we book the appointments with our actual salespeople, done for you 100% on your behalf. So all you have to do is just show up to the actual day of the appointment and close in person. So if you want us to take over this entire process, go ahead, schedule a call with us. The link's in the description. We'll get on, we'll look at your actual numbers, and we'll show you exactly where the money's leaking. But either way, regardless of whether you do or don't, you've now got the exact KPIs that we look at before we work with any shop to essentially guarantee whether or not a campaign will be profitable or not. And as always, thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.